Hi, I'm Edward Funk, and this is Podcast 77. We're going to discuss a movie that Loretta made with Orson Welles called The Stranger. I'll mention this a little bit later, but it's the only Orson Welles directed movie that showed a profit on its initial release. So before we go to that one, there's another movie that comes in first. Okay. Along Came Jones, released the week Loretta's second son, Peter, was born, had done very well, so the executives at International Pictures negotiated one last picture with Loretta before her contract was rescinded. The Stranger focused on a manhunt for a Nazi mastermind who, after the war, fled to the United States. Orson Welles played the Nazi, and Loretta played his deluded bride, with Edward G. Robinson playing the clever pursuer of Welles. Welles also directed, and John Huston was an uncredited contributor to the script. All the ingredients were there to make a huge hit, and it was. And as I said a little bit ago, it was the only Orson Welles directed film that made money on its initial release. Loretta had tremendous respect for Orson Welles, but found his, what's the word, cherub-like face a source of humor. Loretta recalled him saying, "All right, Loretta, I know I'm putting on weight, but you don't have to make fun of me in front of the whole set." I said, "Oh, Orson, I wasn't making fun of you. It's just that when you get so serious, your face is so cute, and it makes me laugh." Russell Meddy, who is the cameraman, tells me that if I laugh too much, I have to go and change my makeup at noontime as I'm getting all these laugh lines around my mouth. And he doesn't want to photograph them. Orson said, "Oh, well, that makes me feel a little bit better." So from then on, when he wanted to give me direction, he'd come up from behind me and he'd say, "Now, Loretta, don't turn around. In this next scene, I want you to be so uptight that a pin dropping on the floor would make you scream." So that's the way he directed me. There's a climactic scene in The Stranger where Loretta climbs a long ladder in a clock tower. Orson's character grabs her by the wrist and pulls her up, leaving Loretta's feet momentarily dangling. Now, in reality, it was the stuntman pulling Loretta's hand, and she had a harness on her wrist that was a continuous wire from the harness of the stuntman's jacket. So, and then behind him, there was another stuntman holding on in case the first man let go. Loretta recalled, the top of that soundstage was probably 3 stories high, so that's why they were taking such precaution. But they tried shooting that scene 3 or 4 times, and each time they'd yell, "Cut," because they could see the wire. I asked the stuntman, what were the chances he'd drop me? He said, only if I had a heart attack at that particular moment. So we shot it without the wire and everything went fine. Orson nearly killed the stuntman when he discovered what we had done. I said to Orson, "Don't blame him, kiss him, you got the shot." In The Stranger, an Irish singer by the name of Red played a pivotal role. Red's trainer was on the set every day, and that gave Loretta an idea. Judy was 10, that's Loretta's daughter, at the time, and was asking for a dog. So Loretta asked the trainer to find a dog. It could be a mutt, but then he was to train it before he delivered to Loretta's house and Judy. He surprised Loretta by also presenting her with a bill for $500. Again, we're talking about like 1946. Loretta was incensed. Now, often she discovered that people wanted to do special things for her because she was this big movie star. Apparently, this guy didn't feel that way. In addition, the first day the dog was in the house, he went to the bathroom on the carpet. A couple more anecdotes related to The Stranger. Edward G. Robinson complained to Orson Welles that he wasn't being photographed on his best side. Now, for those of you who know Edward G. Robinson, you could agree with Orson Welles' question, what the hell's What the hell? Robinson's so unattractive. Why would he think he has a good side? Loretta also thought she had a good side as she photographs best, and that was from the left. Wells asked her if she wouldn't mind some shots in which he photographed her from the right in his effort to appease Robinson. Well, Loretta complied. The final anecdote related to the stranger involved the young actor Richard Long, who eventually played the professor in the TV show Nanny and the Professor. Anyway, he was in his late teens while the stranger was being shot, and Loretta often teased him about how long his eyelashes were. So one day, as a prank, they were shooting a scene where Richard Long's back was to Loretta, and then he would turn to face her. Well, he was wearing horse-sized false eyelashes, and the challenge to Loretta was not to crack up while the camera was on her. She wasn't able to do that, and the whole set broke out in laughter. Loretta's next project was The Perfect Marriage with David Niven as co-star. Virginia Field played the second female lead. Now, if you're an old movie buff, you might remember Virginia Field as Vivien Lee's showgirlfriend in the movie Waterloo Bridge. The story was set in World War I in London, and both women fall into prostitution in order to survive. Loretta was not a favorite of Virginia Field. She said in an interview several years later that she found Loretta to be sickeningly sweet, a pure phony, and that Loretta's two faces sent her home angry and tears several times. When I read that quote to Loretta, it upset me much. She got Virginia's phone number from the William Morris Agency and then asked me to call her. She was living somewhere in the Palm Springs area, and I did call. Her husband was actor Willard Parker. Now, you may remember him as Katherine Grayson's Texas boyfriend from the movie Kiss Me Kate. He's a quite good-looking guy. Anyway, he answered the phone, and I told him why I was calling. At first, I didn't think he'd hand the phone to his wife, but then he did. It was a brief interchange, but she said she would stick with her original assessment. The following day, Loretta and I discussed the matter, and she reflected. I made The Perfect Marriage some 40 years ago, and I'm sure I was not as understanding or compassionate or really interested in anybody else as much as I am today. Anyway, I'm awfully sorry I did that to Virginia. I admit, however, that all women are in competition with all women, whether they know it or not. If you're in second place, no matter what it is, you're scratching to get into first place. And you've got to put the first one out of commission before you can get there. This is automatic. I'm not talking about personal ties, I'm just talking about female. Now, I found this analysis very interesting. I'm sure many feminists today would take interest with Loretta's assessment. Producer Dory Sherry was visiting on the set of The Perfect Marriage and bought her a script called Katie. Loretta recalled. He had offered it to her, Ingrid Bergman, and she turned it down. Why he thought of me, I'll never know. Anyway, after I read the script, I told him, it's a charming script, but I don't have a Swedish accent. He said, well, why don't we let you find a coach and see if you can try it? Just find out. Well, Loretta did give it a try. Although it was a simple little story, the film would be a watershed event in Loretta's career. It'd be released under the title of The Farmer's Daughter. That will be the topic of our next podcast. But hint, hint, she wins an Oscar for this performance. So see you in the next podcast.